Jake, season 17 winner of The Voice. Welcome to today's Nashville. I am so honored to have you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So I have to hear about what it was like from the beginning to the end of The Voice.
Yeah, I think it was very high intensity. Up to that point, I had just played a couple gigs, here and there, open mics and little wineries and bar gigs and stuff like that. And then going from that to national TV.
What even made you think about auditioning?
So at the time, I had actually auditioned for American Idol years before. I call it the cattle call audition because they just bring you in like groups of 6. You step forward, sing like 15 seconds, and they usher you out. And so I was like, I am never doing a singing show. That is just, it's not me. And at the time, I was a single dad, and so I was playing songs to my daughter, and I called it bath tunes because she'd be taking a bath, and I would sing to her and this and that. And they saw it on social media and reached out and said, hey, we would love to invite you out for an audition.
The Voice?
The Voice did, yeah. And I had the same reaction. I emailed them back and said, how do I know this isn't a scam? And they said, well, we don't know how to prove it other than here's the address in Nashville. And so I came down and auditioned. And
now, where were you living?
I was living in Cookeville, Tennessee.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I went to Tennessee Tech out there, played football, and then I actually got into the radio business. I was an account executive, which is fancy for sales rep, but I was selling radio out there, and this just kind of blew all that wide open.
Well, before we get to The Voice, so I'm going to bring you back a little bit. I read that you started singing at open mic during college.
Yes.
How'd that happen?
A lot of fellow players and friends kind of like dragging me there, I think is what it was. I always lacked confidence, so I taught myself to play guitar. I played in churches that Dad started growing up. But to stand in front of people and play, I was like, there's just no way. And finally I got up there and really got a love for it. I mean, it was just feeling the crowd's energy and all that kind of stuff. It became like, man, I got to do this at some point. And so, I think we had open mics twice a semester, and I would always go out. It was at the Backdoor Playhouse at Tennessee Tech University. And did that for a few years and absolutely loved it, and had no idea that where I'd be sitting now started then. It's just a crazy journey.
What was it like to go on stage for the very first time?
Terrifying. It was completely silent, and the song I had picked to sing for my blind audition didn't have any kind of musical intro, so I had no way of finding what my key was. And you just get a little snare and then you start singing. And so the entire time I'm standing behind these doors, I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know what key, like I'm supposed to start this song singing. I don't have a reference point. And Carson was out there, Carson Daly was talking to me, and I'm sitting here trying to go, I need to remember the key. So I walk up there, and luckily I found the key before it got too far into the song. But, I tell people it's just a silent room. There's probably hundreds of people in there. And all I could hear were my boots clomping up the steps. And it was
What was going through your mind?
I don't know that I'm supposed to be doing this. Like, I was just like, I don't know. I don't know how I snuck in here, but here we are. And I tell people, you only play 90 seconds of a song during your blind audition. And it felt like 20 minutes. And Kelly turned at the very end. And she's the only one who turned. But for that 90 seconds, I was just like, oh man, this is taking so long. What's going on? But ended up working out really well.
Jake, before Kelly turned her chair, what was it like when you got the call to come and audition to The Voice? You got there, then what happened? What were the behind the scenes like?
So they had me prepare 2 songs, and then you go into this room or whatever in a studio in Nashville. People lined up down the hallway. You go in and you sing to one producer. That's the first audition. And luckily he was a very kind producer, because the first song I played, I thought I nailed it. And I had rearranged Bruce Springsteen's I'm on Fire. And I was like, man, this is a cool version. And he just sat there and he said, well, if I'm making a decision off that, it's a no. And I was like, oh, man, Then he said, play something else and show me what you can do. And so I I usually play Take It Easy from the Eagles at a G, and I was like, I've got one shot at this thing. And so I bumped it up a whole step and played it. And he goes, that's what I want to hear. And so once you make it through that, you do, I think, 2 or 3 more auditions before you finally go out to California to kind of go through all the different things or whatever. And then you finally do the blind audition. So I don't know how many thousands of people auditioned for the beginning. Once you get to California, there's about 250, somewhere around there. And then they narrow it down to 48. So it's just rapid fire, and you know, you're making friends with everybody. And then the next day, half of those people are gone, and you're just trying to readjust and, you know, refigure out who your people are and all that kind of stuff. But it really was a wonderful time. I tell people it's a singing competition, but it never felt like a competition. It was just like all of us were one big family, encouraging each other, supporting each other. And we still all, you know, talk and hang out when we can today. So it's been really special.
So you went to California, and then you get there. Do you get to meet everybody that's, you know, on the stage? And do you get to meet Kelly and beforehand, or?
No.
Okay.
No. So we got to meet, like, we all had vocal coaches, and we got to meet certain producers, and obviously, you know, you got sound and lighting and everything else going on. So you get to meet the band and you get to meet the sound guys, but you don't really get to meet the coach until after they turn that chair. And then we immediately, once we got done with the blind audition, I remember I went backstage and did an interview, and then walked out and got in a van and went to the airport. So it's like rapid fire, and then they bring you back out a few weeks later to start doing the other things. But it's just so high paced, you know, fast paced, high tempo things that you're just like, what's going on? You know, I think they do that to keep you thinking that way of like, can't figure it out. But Kelly's a sweetheart. She's been a great friend over the years. So very excited, or very honored to have gotten to work with her.
So she turned her chair. And how many weeks after that were you not auditioning, where you were still playing and competing?
Mm-hmm.
How many weeks did it take before you were the finalist?
The finalist. Well, let's see. That was in March of 2019, and I won December 19th. So it's like, once you kind of come and go, you do certain segments at a time, and then you go home, and then when you come back for the lives, you're there until you get eliminated or until you make it to the end. And so I think I went out sometime in October and stayed through the end of December. So it was quite the wild ride.
Did you think you were going to win?
Oh, no, absolutely not. I still don't know how it happened. I'm sitting here going, really? Like, I don't know. But I remember standing there with Ricky Duran, who was the guy who came in second. And on the video, you can see me like nudge him and say something. And I said, man, you got this, dude. I'm so happy for you. And then they called my name, and I was just like, what? Like, Ricky is an incredible singer, songwriter, musician. And I for sure thought he was going to take it home. And so to have them call my name, I just kind of lost it and blacked out at that point. So I remember seeing my girl, and I remember seeing the confetti coming down, but that's about all I remember that moment.
And you were single at this time, right?
I was, yes, ma'am.
So at that moment, what was going through your mind?
You know, I tell people, my wife is the most confident person I know. She's very confident, and she has helped me a lot with my confidence. I lack so much confidence that when I came off the show, I was convinced that nobody would ever book me to play a show. And so I went right back to work at the radio station and worked there for about 2 months. And when I say work there 2 months, I was gone like 6 days a week, and they still let me keep a job there before I finally said, hey, I just can't do this. Like, there's no way. Like, it's not fair to the other employees at the radio station, me being gone as much as I was. But I had no idea what was going to happen. And it just kind of all exploded. You come off a show like that, and we had a 1.5 years worth of touring already booked, sponsorship deals, all these different things, 2 major labels we were talking to.
Were you in Nashville at the time?
I was, yes, ma'am. So Cookeville's about an hour outside of Nashville. Mm-hmm. And so I had gotten a condo downtown Nashville, like, here we go, let's go all in. And then March of 2020 happened, and everything came to a screeching halt. And so, but for those few months, it was on airplanes, in buses, all the different things all over the place for a while. And then everybody came to a halt. So it was a wild year.